Hello friends, in this video we are going to learn about predicate logic. Predicate logic can represent objects and quantification. In my previous video when we saw proposition algebra, we saw that the shortcomings of proposition algebra is that it cannot differentiate between objects present in the sentence, and nor do it has any provision for quantities. Okay, predicate logic, because it has it can represent objects and quantification. Theorem proving in case of predicate logic, it's semi-decidable. When we represent simple facts in proposition, okay, what do we do? For example, consider the following sentence: Socrates is a man. In propositional algebra, this sentence can be written as Socrates man. Similarly, Plato is a man can be written as Plato man. In both this convergence, in both these propositional algebra statements, however, it is very clear that it makes no distinction between what are the objects involved in this. Actually, in the first sentence, Socrates is one object and man is the class to which he belongs. But the prepositional way of representation does not distinguish between objects, nor do it distinguishes between the relationship that is there between the objects. So, since it fails to capture relationships between Socrates and man, we do not get any information about the objects involved. For example, if asked a question, who is a man, we cannot get the answer. Now, the same preposition sentences, if we want to represent this using predicate logic, then using predicate logic, Socrates is a man can be represented as Socrates man, Plato man. Right? Now, in the predicate logic, you have to always read the parameter that is inside the parenthesis first, and then the relation that is there outside the parenthesis. Okay, convention says all the objects which are there, they'll be represented within the brackets, and outside the bracket, the relationship between different objects or the class to which object belongs can be written. How do we read this? You read the object and then the relationship. So you read this as Socrates is a man. You read this as Plato is a man. Consider this sentence: Marcus was a man. Using predicate logic, this can be written as Marcus is a man. Marcus was a Pompeian. Now here Marcus is an object, Pompeian is a class. This can be written as Marcus Pompeian, where Marcus is the object and Pompeian is the class to which it belongs. Quantifiers. Quantifiers enable us to specify quantities, the number of objects involved in the sentence. In predicate logic, there are two quantifiers. The first one is called a universal quantifier. The notation is inverted A. We call it as for all. So this means for all x. That means for all the values that can be taken by variable x. It is used to represent the phrase for all. It says that something is true for all possible values of a variable. So when I write for all x, that means something is true for all possible values x can take in a particular domain. Okay. As an example, John loves everyone. So when I say everyone, this is universally quantified for all, correct? So we write for all x, John loves that x. For all x, John loves that x, where John and x are the objects. X is a representation, x is a variable which will have values as different objects. John itself is a single object, And the relationship between John and X is that John loves X. So you read it as the first object, then the relation, and then read the second object. John loves all X, everyone. Next kind of quantifier is called as existential quantifier. It is written using this notation, inverted E. It is used to represent the fact there exists some. Example, some people like reading and hence they gain good knowledge. Now, in this particular sentence, let us identify which are the objects involved. People, reading, knowledge. Some over here specifies that we are not talking about all the people, but we are talking about some of them. So it is existentially quantified. So some means there exists some X. Next, unlike in the previous sentence, it is not given as everyone or someone. It is clearly said that some people. So then this X we have to categorize as a person. So for there exists some X such that X is a person. Next, some people like reading. So X, who is a person, he likes reading. Note that most of the times the objects are given as arguments to this particular predicate, but as a rare case, sometimes the activity also can be given as input to the predicate. For example, here this means there exists some X such that X is a person and X likes reading. So this is how some people like reading can be represented. Now let us read further. Some people like reading and hence they gain good knowledge. So and hence means this is a hidden implication. This implies, okay, they gain good knowledge. Now they means who? They means the people who read. Okay, so they are X's. So they gain good knowledge can be written as they means X gain knowledge. You can even write good underscore knowledge. So this way such sentences can be represented as there exists some X such that X is a person and X likes reading, and if X is person and X likes reading, this implies X will gain knowledge. Notice the bracket, curly bracket. This defines the scope of a variable X. So the bracket starts here and the bracket ends here. It simply means that the scope of X is not only the right hand side of this sub expression of this implication, but X is present on the left hand side of implication as well as on the right hand side of implication. So the scope of X is the entire sentence. Why? Because X is present on the left hand side of implication and also on the right hand side of implication. Let us consider another example. Lord Higgins has a crown on his head. Now focus on a crown. If I had written here the crown, that means I'm talking about a particular crown, that particular crown. But when you write a crown, it simply means Higgins must be having some set of crowns which he wear for different occasions. A crown meaning one amongst those some set of crowns. So this is a existential quantifier. So I say there exists some X such that X is a crown. That means there exists some set of crowns and X is that particular crown, and that crown X is on head of Higgins. Nested quantifiers. We can use universal quantifier and existential quantifier separately in a sentence together. Example, everybody loves somebody. When I say everybody, it is universally quantified. When I say somebody, it is existentially quantified. So for all X, there exists some Y such that all X's, that means everybody loves some Y, that is somebody. In such sentences, the placement of x and y can be also interchanged. That means you can write y first and x next without changing the meaning of the sentence. The placement of this x and y can be interchanged. They can be written in any order, provided the order of xy does not change. The connection between universal quantifier and existential quantifier. Consider the sentence, everyone dislikes garlic. It can be written as, for all x, x likes garlic. And please notice this, it is a negation or not operator. When applied to a predicate, it uh, negates the entire predicate. So here it means, for all x, x not likes garlic. Now this can also be said as, there does not exist someone who likes garlic. So you can write this as, there exists some x such that x likes garlic. That means there exists somebody who likes garlic. And when negate it from outside, it means there does not exist any x who likes garlic. Consider this sentence, all Romans were either loyal to Caesar or hated him. Now here in this sentence, it is not given as everybody, it is given clearly that it is all Romans. So the universal quantifier variable x that you are going to take, you have to categorize it as Roman. And then if x is known to be Roman, implies that x was either loyal to Caesar or hated him. So for all x, if x is known to be Roman, implies x is loyal to Caesar or x hated Caesar. The next sentence, everyone is loyal to someone. Now here, everyone, unlike Romans, you don't have to categorize the variable x and variable y, because it is given as general, everyone. It need not be a person or an animal or plant. It is in general everyone. So for all x, so x represents everyone. There exists some y represents someone, then x is loyal to y. Okay, so how do you read it? X, everyone, loyal to y, someone. As I had already said, the placement of x and y can be interchanged like this without actually changing the meaning. Compare these two sentences. The placement of x and y can be interchanged without changing the meaning. Make sure the order of x and y is not changed. If you write here y comma x, it would mean that someone is loyal to everyone, which is wrong. People only try to assassinate rulers they are not loyal to. Now it is not said as some people. In general, when they say people, it means it is for all the people. So this is universal quantifier. People try to assassinate rulers. Now rulers, these are also universally quantified. Why? Because we are talking in general about all the possible rulers in this world. This statement is applicable for all the rulers in the world. So people, person is universally quantified. Rulers are also universally quantified. So for all x, where x is a person, for all y, where y is a ruler. So if x is a person and y is a ruler, and if it is known that x tries to assassinate y, implies x is not loyal to y. Because people only try to assassinate rulers they are not loyal to. So if it is known that a person tries to assassinate a ruler, implies that person is not loyal to the ruler. Why? Next sentence, all Pompeians were Romans. Now in this sentence, Pompeian is Pompey is a tribe in Rome. So Pompeian is a subclass of a superclass called as Roman. So this can be written as, for all x, if x is known to be a Pompeian, implies that x is a Roman. Marcus tried to assassinate Caesar. Can be written as, try assassinate Marcus, Caesar. Let us see some more examples. all indoor games are easy. For all x, if x is known to be an indoor game, implies x is easy. Rajiv likes only cricket. Rajiv likes cricket. Any person who is respected by every person is a king. Now, when I say any person, this is existentially quantified. When I say every person, this is universally quantified. And if every person respects any person, then that any person is a king. So there exists some x, okay, for all y, that is for every person. If x is person, there exists some x if x is person, so this is any person, for all y, and y is also a person, this is for every person. And if it is known that y, that is every person, respects x, that is any person, implies that any person x is a king. So this red color variable is for any person, blue color variable is for every person. So if every person respects any person, then that any person is a king. So there exists some x for all y if x is person and y is also person, and if it is known that y respects x, implies x is king. Some more examples. Now this example I've taken just to show you nested predicates. God helps those who help themselves. Now here you consider this particular predicate. X helps x, that means x helps himself. For all x, if x helps himself, if this is true, then God helps those who help themselves. So this is how nested predicates are written. Everyone who loves all animals is loved by someone. Okay. Now when I say everyone, this is universally quantified. When I say all animals, this is also universally quantified, but you have to categorize that y as animal. X need not be categorized as anything. And everyone who loves all animal is loved by someone. That someone is also need not be categorized. So let's say X is everyone, Y is animal, and someone is Z. So if you want to represent only this part, everyone who loves all animal, it can be written like this. For all X, for all Y, if Y is known as animal, implies X loves Y. Brackets indicate the scope of X. Now, further, is loved by someone. So that means there exists some Z and that Z loves X. So there exists some Z such that Z loves X. So together, when you embed these two together, you get this sentence. So for all X, for all Y, if Y is animal, okay, for all X, for all Y, if Y is animal, implies X loves Y. That means that someone loves all animals. And then if this is true, then in turn implies there exists some Z and that Z loves X in return. Now note the brackets, blue brackets that I've written here. This shows the scope of X. Since X is involved on the left hand side of this implication and also on the right hand side of this implication, the scope of X is throughout this entire sentence. Before we end with this particular discussion, let us finally see what are computable functions and when they are used. Consider this particular sentence: Marcus was born in 40 AD. It can be simply written as Marcus born 40. The next sentence, all Pompeians died when volcano erupted in 79 AD, can be written as volcano erupted in 79, and for all x, if x was a Pompeian who was alive at that time, implies x died in 79. These two are pretty easy sentences. But the problem happens when you have to specify something like greater than, taller than, or some logical things. So there you require some compatible functions. Example, you consider this sentence: no mortal lives longer than 150 years. How will you specify this? Assume that this particular sentence is given to the knowledge base, is fed to the knowledge base. No mortal lives longer than 150 years. Assume another sentence is also given as input, that Marcus was a mortal. The first sentence given to the knowledge base is no mortal lives longer than 150 years. Second sentence given to the knowledge base is Marcus was a mortal. And third sentence given to the knowledge base is Marcus was born in 1555 AD. Okay. Now, if you want to prove, and it is asked to prove whether Marcus is dead or not, how machine will solve this problem using your predicate logic? It will be difficult. Now, I ask you manually, if this query was given to you, how you would have done? You would have considered 1555 as one time instance, say T1, and 2020 as the second time instance, that is T2. Then you would have subtracted T2 and T1 and you would have found the value. So when you subtract 2020 with 1555, you are going to get 465, and then you would have compared that 465 with 150. Is it greater than 150 or no? Indeed, in this case 465 is greater than 150, and based on that you would have said that today if you speak, Marcus is dead. Now how do we solve this using computable functions? So let T1 be the time instance 1. So let T1 be the time instance when Marcus was born, let's say 1555. And T2 is a time instance, that is today's current year 2020. We then use a computable function GT, that is greater than, which takes two values. The first parameter, if it is greater than the second parameter, the function returns true or else false. And then we write for all x, for all T1, for all T2, if x is known to be mortal, and if x was born in time instance T1, that is 1555, and here we find out the difference between the current year 2020 and the past year, that is 1555, the year when he was born. What greater than function will do? It will now compare the value, that is 465, with 150, and if the first parameter is greater than 150, it will return true. Now in this case, T2 minus T1 gives you 465, and 465 is yes greater than 150, so this function returns true. So since 1, 2 and 3 all predicates return true, that means the entire right hand side is true, then that means the entire left hand side is true, that means the right hand side has to be true. So this implies that x is dead in time instance T2. So then if you ask the question, is Marcus alive today, so the system will correctly answer that Marcus is dead today. Okay, so that is it for this lecture.